He turned water into wine, I turned whiskey into songs. Too many second chances, too many too far gones. Gave me grace along the way, took my heart and led me home. Don't you see? It's a God thing for me. Now I write songs about the heartland. My heartland's in Tennessee.
Welcome to the Heartland Journal podcast with Steve Abramowitz, editor-in-chief of heartlandjournal.com.
Welcome to our very special Heartland Journal Summer Series, where we have dug deep into the archives and unearthed some of our most popular and even controversial shows of the past, many that haven't seen the light of day in years. We hope you enjoy what we have in store for you. Until I return to my post as host of the Heartland Journal podcast, this is Steve Abramowitz wishing you a safe and sane summer. And as always, glory to God. Howdy, y'all. Welcome back. I'm Steve Abramowitz, and this is the Heartland Journal podcast. On this show, we are focused on our nation today with always an interesting person making a positive change in our community and lovers of truth. Welcome to our People in News episode, where I interview people who are making an impact and are lovers of truth. Today, we are talking with actor, producer, author, and director Kevin Sorbo. Famous for his role on the #1 worldwide hit TV series Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, Kevin always strived to bring hopeful messages and meaningful entertainment to all. After Hollywood's wokeness spread wide, Kevin forged his own path. Already a successful actor, director, and producer, he founded Sorbo Studios to breathe traditional values and uplifting content back into the fabric of American culture. As an author, producer, and mentor, Kevin is dedicated to creating stories that inspire and nurture the soul. He wrote The Test of Lionhood, a Christian children's book that teaches kids about masculinity. So check that out for your favorite kids' Christmas stockings. There's only 20 days left, people. Kevin Sorbo is happily married to his bride of over 25 years, Sam Sorbo, and they have 3 nearly grown children. I think they are grown now, who they homeschooled: Braden, Octavia, and Shane, born 12 pounds, 6 ounces. Wow. Born nearly full grown. Turns 20 in a few months. Hello, Mr. Sorbo. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You're in Florida, right? Where it's always sunshine.
It's beautiful here. Yeah, we escaped the worst governor in the country for the best governor in the country. So we love being here. We left 5 years ago, and both my wife and I have had family out here for a long time. I think our sisters lived out here 40 years. So we've been coming for years, and it just got to a point. I got so fed up with California, with what they've done to the state. As you know, that whole left coast is insane, and we left, and it's been a great move for me. I mean, I've shot over 80 movies, and probably 90% of those movies are shot in Texas or further east. Nothing shoots in California anymore. So we decided 5 years ago, enough is enough, and we got out of there. I miss it. I'll be honest. I loved where I lived. I lived between LA and Santa Barbara, so I was like a good hour and a half either side. But it just got to a point, the traffic, the taxes, everything. I said, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, you're where it's always sunshine, just like California. It's turning
cold.
Dry.
We only hit 81 degrees today. It's very chilly.
Yeah, but thankfully they're not going to take your gas stoves away at the TVA yet. So not a fear where you're at. Is that the Hercules sword behind you?
That was after 7 years, the very, very, very last day of filming. After that big chapter in my life, this is the sword that the props department built for me and put to me, and it's got the dates on there from 1993 to 1999, the 7 years we filmed it down there. And it says, the journey may be over, but the legend lives on. So
Awesome. Looks like a Lord of the Rings.
My whole crew, actually, about 90% of my crew went on to work on Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson used to come on the set every once to see how the crew was developing, because I lived in New Zealand for all that time. And they all went in to win Academy Awards. I mean, our props department, our wardrobe department, the Weta group that did all of our creatures. I think they won like 5 Academy Awards over the three different Lord of the Rings.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, like you said, you, like me, a recent arrival to a new state. You had a Westlake Village villa and Hamptons up in the Sag Harbor homes for the free state of Florida. Was that just a complete uproot from California and where Hollywood types do their summers, or did you already have some roots in Florida?
It was just my brother. I had a brother living here. He has since moved. He's moved up to North Carolina to be closer to his oldest daughter and their 4 grandchildren. But my wife's sister still lives in Tampa. She's on the other side of the state, but we see them quite often. At least every 6 weeks, we see them either going out there or they're coming out here. So, but it's been a good move for a lot of reasons for me, and for my wife as well. But I've always loved it here. Like I said, I'm not going to lie. I do miss the weather of Southern California. I miss my house there, but it just, like I said, I got to a point that I was just so done with the hypocrisy of it all. And, that state, I think it's closing in on 8 million people have left that state in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. And it's just kind of funny how their current governor has a way of making it still sound like it's the state to live in. I mean, it's a beautiful place, but they've totally destroyed it.
Yeah, he is a liar, but there's no mountains in Florida. People don't know that.
I know. I go to Minnesota, pretty flat in Minnesota too. I mean, when you get up to Duluth, you get up to the northeast side of Minnesota, it's different, but most of Minnesota is just flat.
So let's go way back for you. You tell me if this is correct. You began your career with a one-liner in a TV commercial for Jim Beam whiskey. This ain't Jim Beam.
Oh no, that was probably my 120th commercial. I've shot a lot of commercials. My first commercial was actually for Target. Minneapolis is host to a lot of businesses that are their national headquarters are there. We got Target, we got Best Buy, there's Pillsbury, 3M, General Mills, Cargill. There's so many companies. So I did a lot of commercial work back in my college years and got that all-important Screen Actors Guild card before I moved out to LA. I already had a good commercial reel. So when I booked the Jim Beam thing, that was a year before I got Hercules. And it was interesting because they shot it in Auckland, New Zealand, where I ended up living for 7 years. And I remember going down there to shoot this commercial. And I'm going, it's kind of a cool place. I hope I get to come back here someday. And a year later, I booked Hercules and ended up living there for 7 years. So be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, I actually was in Australia, Australia and New Zealand, thinking that those would be a good place to go if Washington State or California, where I'm from, ever got bad. They were worse. So It's a good thing you did what you did 20 years ago.
They got more crazy, especially during COVID. They were like dictatorship down there. They finally got rid of that prime minister. She was absolutely horrible. But that's what you get when you mix communism with communism
and tropical locales like California. So what folks can't see besides that sword, unless they're looking at Rumble or here on the podcast, is you're 6'3" tall, 3.5 inches tall. Most actors are pretty short. Tom Cruise is 5'10", but he's not too short.
Tom Cruise is maybe 5'6". He's not 5'10".
All right, so he's
not.
I trust
5'8". Stallone is 5'8".
Emilio Estevez is 5'4.5", so that's short. But you stand out, no pun intended. Did you ever watch Ron Ely as Tarzan in the 60s? He was 6'4". Wondering if he may have been a mentor to you, not a mentor, but an idol of yours.
No, I think Steve Reeves was more of a mentor because of my older brothers. I mean, that was George Reeves was his brother. George played Superman on TV. Yeah. The first series back in the 50s or 60s, whenever it was. I got a letter from Steve Reeves, actually. He says how much he loves my rendition, my portrayal of Hercules. And I got to give the studio credit at Universal because they put a lot of humor in the show, but they also put a lot of moral values in the show. Even though it was a mythological character, they put a lot of biblical sort of values in there. Not like in your face with it, but it was amazing. I mean, by season 3, we were the most watched show in the world in 176 countries. And to be part of that was just really an honor. And to this day, I say get stopped, but I got to be honest, people stop me more now for my faith-based movies like God's Not Dead, What If, Abel's Field. I had 2 came out this year that I directed both of them. One is Left Behind, Rise of the Antichrist, based on the 80 million best-selling books, Left Behind books. And then the other one was in theaters recently called Miracle in East Texas that I directed. So they're all available. Tell people go to sorbostudios.com. It's Christmas time. sorbostudios.com. Great place to go for all things that have to do with not only Hercules and Andromeda, my other series, but a lot of my movies as well.
Yeah, you just did, and you jumped ahead in my script. I was going to talk about all those things, and maybe we
can still talk about them again. You got to say things over and over again for people to remember.
Well, one thing about Ron as Tarzan that reminded me of you is that he was 6'4", so a little taller, but close enough. Probably lying in his promo stuff too, but he did his own stunts and suffered 24 major injuries in the process. And I read that you lost 20 pounds of muscle between the end of Hercules and the beginning of Andromeda. You did 110 episodes, and that's a good run for TV. Of course, Hercules, is kind of what you just said. People come up to you on the street for. And you were stuck up there in Canada for all that. Another place that went crazy.
That was Canada. I was in Canada for the Andromeda series.
Right. So between 20 pounds lost from Hercules to that, and then 110 episodes up there in Canada, stuck behind there. So what was your impression of Canada as a place to film versus, say, Auckland?
Well, Canada, at that time, Canada was a good place to go shoot. They weren't, number one, Trudeau wasn't in office, thank God. But it was, Vancouver was great. The people were great. The country at that time, it was beautiful. I thought it was pretty easy to be up there and in film. They called Vancouver Hollywood North because so much gets shot up there. I think outside of America, if you look at Vancouver and Toronto, because of the tax credits you get and the dollar is stronger, our dollar gets more bang, for its buck up in Canada. It's called show business, right? If a $300 million Deadpool, I think they're shooting Deadpool 3 up there right now, they're going to get $100 million back just in tax credits alone. So it is called show business after all, not show. But
That's right.
For me, it was great. Would I like to go up there now and shoot up there now? Probably not. That country, once COVID hit, once again, all these governments, their favorite weapon over the populace is fear. They love controlling people's lives.
Thankfully, that was done in the 2020s and not now, of course. And Ryan Reynolds is Canadian, so he's just home basically. But who were some of your childhood Hollywood idols besides the Reeveses?
Certainly the main two would be Robert Redford and Paul Newman. That's the reason why I wanted to be an actor. I loved all the movies those guys did. I got a wonderful letter hanging up over here that I got from Paul Newman. Saying how much he likes my work and stuff, and it was pretty cool. That was my guys. I'll tell you, the first year you mentioned and drama. Hercules. The first year in Hercules, we did 5 2-hour movies. We shot each movie 10 weeks. So that was the full year. That was 50 weeks. That was a full year of filming the 5 movies before it became a series. And on that movies, I got to work with Anthony Quinn, and Anthony Quinn played Zeus. And I know there's a lot of people that are out there that are under the age of 35 probably don't know who Anthony Quinn is, but Anthony Quinn is from the golden age of Hollywood. He's worked with all the other big names. The guy nominated 6 times for Oscars. He won twice. Great movies like Sorbo the Greek, The Guns of Navarone, Lawrence of Arabia that won, 13 different Oscars or something. So I got to work with a pretty cool guy, and every weekend we had dinner together for a year. So I got to bend his ear and get all these great old stories about him working with David Lean, who was a very famous director back then, and working with Brando, it was pretty cool to hang out with him. And we stayed very good friends until he passed away 8 years after that. He was 78 when he did it. He was 86 when he passed. And I remember asking him, I go, "Why are you doing 5 TV movies? You're Anthony Quinn." And he said, "Kevin, I've always wanted to play Zeus. When will I get this chance again?" So it was.
I loved him. I loved him in Revenge, which I think was one of his last ones. And so that's amazing that you could work with a legend and play a legend on TV. And like you said, Hercules was the most watched syndicated television series in the world in the mid-90s. Do you look back and see him as a role model, Hercules, to kids?
Oh, there's no question. Just based on the letters I got, you get letters from lonely kids, orphans, troubled teens saying, your show is teaching me that I don't have to fight all the time. Because Herc didn't walk out. He always was forced into it. Every episode, he'd always try to talk people out of whatever they're doing. It would be like a last second thing. And they never killed anybody in the series. He threw them and they'd land 100 meters away in a cow pie or something. But they put up so much humor in the show, which I thought was really important. But that's a trademark of Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi was the exec producer. And, he did all those Evil Dead things, but they always put a lot of humor in there. And they kept that going with this show. And he kind of had to do that with Hercules. Otherwise, it's easily a show that people could laugh at, but we didn't want that. We wanted people to laugh with us and be in on the joke. Kind of a Gilligan's Island thing in a way,
And he went on to do Spider-Man. So he's doing okay for himself too.
Doing okay. He did the last Doctor Strange as well.
That's right. And so you are an author. I said it in your bio. In your memoir, True Strength, My Journey from Hercules to Mere Mortal and How Nearly Dying Saved My Life, you described how you went from being an action hero to someone who couldn't walk a straight line because you felt like you were constantly falling backwards. Dizziness, heart palpitations, nausea, migraines, loss of sight, and speech plagued you for months following the strokes, and a constant humming sound rang in your ears every minute. I think that's called tinnitus. For 2 years. Sam, your wife, dedicated herself to helping you. She was your fiance at the time, endure 4 months of grueling rehabilitation before you got married and returned to filming the 6th and final season of Hercules after all that. For those who haven't read your book yet, but should, please go out and get it. What do you remember from those days besides Sam?
Well, it was actually, we had 2 more seasons left. We filmed season 6 and 7. My strokes happened at the end of season 5. I had an aneurysm that I didn't know about. That it was in my left subclavicle, right up next to my neck, and it opened up and sent hundreds of clots into my left arm. But I had 4 strokes that hit my brain. It took me. The speech came back fairly quickly, luckily, but it took me 4 years to learn. 4 months to really. I worked my butt off. Trust me, because I was like in really good shape back then. So I think it helped me a lot. But it took me 4 months to really push myself to learn how to balance and walk again. It took me 3 full years to feel like I recovered. I still have side, issues. I mean, I still have a 10% loss of vision in both eyes, but it was worse than that at one time. It was closer to 40% at one time. I still get balance issues if I get really tired. I'm a cheap date now. I can't have more than 1 drink. Otherwise, it's going to affect me more than it's going to affect me before. But I do like a glass of wine and maybe a cold beer after a round of golf. But I was never a heavy drinker to begin with. I still work out now all the time. I keep pushing myself. And it's a blessing that it really, I didn't want to write the book. My wife bugged me to write the book. She said, you don't realize how therapeutic this can be for other people. Because here you are playing Hercules, the strongest man in the world, and it happened to you. And I didn't have any of the things that said, oh, you're set up to have strokes. I didn't have any of that stuff. And so I wrote the book, and it's been amazing because it opened up a door for me I thought I'd never be doing, and that's public speaking. I'm not afraid to get into public speaking, but it's not something I thought I'd be doing. And I do probably about 12 to 15 speaking events a year now. And it's the book. People can tell from the book that I'm conservative. They can tell I'm a Christian. So it went from just the initially speaking events were all medical. I'd speak to, whether it's chiropractors or I'm speaking to nurses or I'm speaking to anybody in the medical field. It ended up being I do a lot of pro-life speaking, a lot of Christian education speaking, motivational as well. And it's been weird. It's been a weird door that God opened up for me that I never thought I'd be doing. But I'll tell you, I think the whole thing became a calling for me, and it really made me kind of go down a different road in terms of what the kind of movies that I wanted to do then I had 2 more years on Herc, then 5 years in Andromeda. But then after that, I started doing movies I think I wanted that had more of a message than anything else. And that's kind of the road we've been on for a while now.
Yeah, God bless. Well, Billy Graham, you said, played a big part in making you who you are today. He lived to 99. How did he affect you, and did you ever get to meet him?
I was 13 years old. The Billy Graham Foundation had a huge headquarters up in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. And he was doing one of his big crusades, and it was downtown St. Paul at the St. Paul State Fairgrounds. And it was a hot August night. There had to be at least 200 to 250,000 people there. I mean, it was amazing. And we took like 6 buses from my church to get down there. And for whatever reason, something I never would have done, especially at 13 years old, is when he finished speaking, he said, I've got, volunteers down there if you want to come down and pray, talk, whatever. I was motivated to go down there. And I went down there and I sat in the grass with this guy. I was 13 at the time. This guy was maybe 30. So I thought he was really old, right? So I'm sitting on the grass with this guy, and all of a sudden a hand went on my head, and I turned around, and it was a full moon, but in front of the full moon was Billy Graham's head. So he had these rays shooting out of his hair. And I never as a little kid. It was very Holy Spirit-ish, I guess. And we talked, and he prayed for me. And I said that story in the Larry King show years later, and they called me. Larry Ross, who heads up all the PR for the Billy Graham Foundation, called me up and said, look, we're doing the only hardcover book that Chicken Soup for the Soul has ever done. We want you to do one of the chapters. They always have 101 stories to talk about when you're 13. So I wrote it. And then when the book was done, they came to me and said, he's well into his 90s. He can't travel, but he loves what you had to say. And he loves the things you're doing now, because I was already by that time, I already been doing like What If and God's Not Dead and stuff. And he said, would you be willing to, we'll pay for everything you travel, but would you go out and do the publicity on the book? So pretty cool honor, no question. And through that, of course, I met Franklin Graham. I've been friends with Franklin ever since.
Wow. And a future Greek god was discovered by an Italian fashion designer, Gianni Versace, who hired you as a model for his clothing line. That's where the tall part comes in. And over the next 3.5 years, your modeling exploits took you to Paris, Munich, Zurich, and London. So you're already known internationally before you were a superstar on TV.
Well, it's something I wasn't planning on doing because I'm an actor, but I was dating a model at the time, and she kind of talked me into going over there to Italy, and that's how I met Versace in Milan. And it was just weird. We stayed friends up until his passing, and I tell a joke about how he kind of hit on me. He's gay, but we remained very good friends. And I laughed at him and said, "Dude, I'm as straight can be," But I think he admired the fact that I was so straightforward with him. And didn't feel any kind of pressure to do something, and we remained friends, and I did a lot of his shows. He had me do a lot of his female shows because of my height, because a lot of these models, even with high heels, are 6'1" or something, and I'm over 6'3". So it was just kind of fun. To me, it's like acting in a way. That's why I looked at it, and I wasn't planning on spending 3.5 years in Europe. It wasn't the game plan after college. It just turned into it, but it made me grow up. I got to tell you, it was fun. And then I went when I got back to the States, I got sidetracked by my agent in LA, which I hadn't even met, only over the phone. I already signed with a commercial agent because I had a very good commercial reel. And they called me up and they said, "Hey, there's an Australian commercial that they want you for." And before I know it, I'm on a plane to Australia. And I'd only been about 3 days in LA, and I ended up staying in Australia for 8 months. So I put all this stuff on hold. I remember my dad one time saying, "I thought you were moving to LA." And I said, "I'm not calling you for money. I'm doing okay. I'm making my own way."
Jet setter from the get-go. Okay. Well, now I've said, Kevin, for a long time that all these sequels of 80s action heroes who are old now, just gravity took over, are really a commentary on America as we are old and not able to hold up that beacon of strength and moral righteousness we once did when Rocky beat the Russians, or Rambo against the Taliban, or Arnie,
Sure.
the old James Dean adage, die young and leave a good-looking corpse. Now it's sad old men like the last Indiana Jones, sorry, Eddie, I saw it. He's exhausted, and the shirtless scene was a really bad call. You said you're part of a larger fight in defense of the virtues of masculinity, which are being eroded in Hollywood and in society at large. So you wrote The Test of Lionhood.
Yep.
Do you agree the message of the old action hero movies today is we are spent? And what do you want kids to get out of that book? And what is today's entertainment doing to our kids' minds?
There's the book for those who can see it. Brave Books came to me, and I was very honored for them to come to me. My friend Kirk Cameron has done a couple books with them, and I'm about to do another book with them. In fact, before you and I met here just now, I just spent about 4.5 hours with the Brave Book people at a studio shooting a bunch of promotional pieces coming up. And I've always talked about that, I'm tired of people saying we got to wake up the sheep, wake up the silent majority. Well, I don't know when the silent majority is going to ever wake up, because I see the insanity of what's going on in our country, that people aren't fighting for better things. I'm seeing woke pastors and woke churches. I mean, a lot of my speaking I do, I say, pastors, you work for God, not government. But there's a lot of pastors out there that are doing the opposite. And they don't have the guts to speak the truth anymore. It's all, I don't want to offend anybody. You know what? Truth is kryptonite to the left. Truth is kryptonite to our government. It's kryptonite to Hollywood. And I just got sick of it. And I said, look what they've done to kids in terms of the masculinity issue. And they've been beating us down since the 60s, just making it worse and worse every single decade now. And, men are men, women are women. There's a difference. For men to sit there and say they're a woman and go into women's sports and They're totally kicking their butts. This is just stupid. And shame on parents for keeping their girls in those sports. Move them out. Take all these girls and do your own competition somewhere else on another day outside of the school. Because it's just stupid to sit there and reinforce this this mental illness, because that's what it is. You're either a boy or a girl. I met a girl in the movie I was shooting. She's 21 years old. I said, what are you studying in college? She said, gender studies. I looked at her and said, what? Okay, look, I could have saved your parents 200 grand. Male, female, boom, done. And I get attacked for that, but that's reality. And I don't blame, look, if somebody thinks when they're old enough, I know Bruce Jenner for years, okay? Bruce was 60 when he said, I want to be a woman now. Okay, he's an old enough person to make something, do that for himself. Don't do that to 4 and 5 year olds. Let them at least get to 18 years old, even if they have that going through, work with them, talk with them, but let them grow up, let them get old enough, because you've seen it, I've seen it, that a lot of these 20 to 30 year olds now that transitioned decades ago or 10 years ago, they now blame their mom or their dad. They go, I was 8 years old. What were you thinking? And they're saying to themselves, I don't care if people want to do that to themselves. I honestly don't. I'm a live and let live kind of guy. But let them be old enough to do it. My book is really about letting boys grow up to be boys and hopefully grow up to be strong men and strong father figures. I'm not anti anything. I'm pro-child is what I am. I'm pro-child. Let kids grow up and make that decision for themselves. That's what they want to do, fine. The alphabet crowd attacking me left and right. They attack all the time anyway. They got nothing better to do with their lives, which is very sad to me. But I said, you know what? You're not going to find one. I've been in the business 40 years. You're not going to find one lesbian, one gay man. You're not going to find one that says, when I worked with them, I was a horrible person. You're not.
No.
They can come out and lie and say I was.
No.
Just
if anything, you're a concerned dad like me, and that totally makes sense. So,
but it's just like weird to me. But I mean, this is the battle we got going on right now, and it's sad that we have so much hate and anger out there, because I don't harbor that to them. I don't harbor that to the other side. I feel sad that we can't have a civil conversation. I really do. I feel sad that they live in this darkness space, and they don't want light in. And the only way they have temporary a way of feeling better for themselves is attacking you and attacking me. But all it does is hurt them. It doesn't hurt me.
Not much room for conversation, that's for sure.
No.
So 1995, 1999, you were Hercules, a spin-off.
1993 to 1999.
Oh boy. All right.
I know.
Well,
you're not the first person to get that wrong. I don't know why they have it listed wrong. Some got it right and some don't have it right.
But a spin-off, Xena, the Warrior Princess, with New Zealander Kiwi Lucy Lawless, was 95 to 2001. New Zealand went, we just said, way off the deep end. So I kind of understand maybe where this is going. But you wrote on Twitter, do these look like Trump supporters or leftist agitators disguised as Trump supporters? They don't look like patriots to me. This was about January 6th. The image you shared was the shirtless, self-identified QAnon shaman in a Viking hat. His name is Jake Angeli of Arizona. Right. She wrote back, no, Peanut. They are not patriots. They are your flying monkeys, homegrown terrorists, QAnon actors. They are the douchebags that go out and do the evil bidding of people like you who like to wind them up like toys and let them do their worst. Okay, so that's Lucy Lawless, January 7th, 2021. First off, Peanuts aren't 3.5 inches, so she's rude. But you were right. Jake did his time and is now running for Congress. Has she come around and said, I'm sorry? Or
I haven't talked to her for 20 years. Everything I said about that, anybody who can read knows that all that January 6th stuff, everything we said is true. Everything we said is it was the FBI is guilty, the CIA is guilty. It was planned. It was put out there. Did some people go in there and make a mistake by jumping in there? Sure, they did. But then now we're seeing all of the videotapes, and you can see they're opening up the doors. Hey, come this way, come that way. They're doing fake arrests with other FBI guys, and then they get around a closed door and take his handcuffs off when they think they're off camera, and they're doing fist pumps with each other. I mean, there's a lot to be answered. So, and you
were right within 5 minutes, and we have to wait 3 years to get this information.
Well, all my conspiracy theories, of course, have come true. And they got footage. You got footage of Antifa guys getting videotaped by their friends laughing about it, putting on Trump stuff. And the one guy says, yeah, I know this is going to make you sick and throw up, but just put it on. We got to blend in. This guy's admitting to it.
Joke's on us.
God forbid we look at the truth. Yeah. Well, it's once again, the people on the left are just full. They're like, Xena wouldn't have a career without Hercules. She would still be a New Zealand actress that no one would know about. My series was already the most watched show in the world when she got in there. Now, I think the more interesting one is my 5th-year spinoff with young Hercules. A lot of people don't remember the actor who played me as a teenager. The show only lasted 2 years. He was devastated. I went out to lunch with him and said, dude, you're a good actor. You're going to do fine. The kid playing me as a teenager was a 20-year-old Ryan Gosling. There you go.
Little blonder, but yeah. All right. Well, I don't want to run out of time with you.
Well.
I know you're busy, got a busy schedule today, but so Gene Roddenberry created Star Trek, which only had 79 episodes. So you outlasted Captain Kirk, which is very cool. And your Hercules ratings were actually higher because it got canceled for low ratings. High Guard Captain Dylan Hunt, that was you. For Andromeda, formerly titled Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda, is a space opera television series based on unusual material by Gene Roddenberry, developed by Robert Hewitt Wolfe and produced by Roddenberry's widow, Majel, I think it's called, Barrett, and it starred you. What are your biggest takeaways from that experience? You did that longer.
Look, I grew up watching reruns of Star Trek back in the 70s and 80s. I was a huge fan. I probably saw every episode. I don't know how many times. In college, it was 10:30 at night. It was Twilight Zone, 11 o'clock. It was Star Trek. So for me to go to these autograph shows at Comic-Cons and now meet Bill Shatner, and I've known him now for, my gosh, well over 20 years. It's pretty cool. I've been to his house for Monday Night Football games, Comic-Cons. We've gone to dinner afterwards. So to be the first captain ever created by Gene Roddenberry after he created Captain Kirk, it's a bit of an honor. So I'm flattered by all of that for sure.
All right. So I don't think we have a lot of time left, but
I got to roll. I'm sorry.
All right. I just wanted to get to this one last thing, if you can. Sure. You got to reunite with a friend of mine. You teamed up with Howie Klausner again for Reagan, coming out next year. I love Secret Handshake, filmed 14 minutes from me right here in Franklin, Tennessee, and filmed in Howie's house. How was working with him and Dennis Quaid as Ronald Reagan?
Well, Howie's brilliant. He's so funny. He's got a great sense of humor, and he loves golf like I do. And it's unfortunate here. I've done other independent movies too that are wonderful. And Howie's movie, The Secret Handshake, is such a great coming of age movie comedy. And here's the frustrating thing of independent movies. We don't have that $100 million advertising budget like they do in Hollywood for their big blockbusters. They'll spend $250, $300 million filming Pirates of the Caribbean or Avengers or whatever. They spend $100 million promoting it so they can put a commercial in every football game, every sitcom. We got to rely on word of mouth. I had one that was like in that range where I shot $2 million movie called God's Not Dead. I made $140 million, all in word of mouth. Howie's movie deserves a theatrical release and it deserves a bigger audience, but it's so brutal to get him out there. And Hollywood has a good way of trying to keep indies out anyway. They don't want any kind of competition, and they want to, squash anything you're putting out there. But wonderful movie. Dennis Quaid and I have worked together before. In fact, we were just at a charity golf event for St. Luke, or St. Jude's Hospital just a couple of days ago. We did a movie called Soul Surfer, The Life of Bethany Hamilton, that did very well in theaters. We shot that in Hawaii. We became good friends on that 2 months there because we had like 4 days off each week for the 2 months. So we just golfed all 4 of those days together. And then this Reagan movie, he plays Reagan, I play his pastor. Rumors it's coming out next spring or summer. I don't have any dates yet, but it's a big epic. I'm sure it's going to be about 3 hours long because it deals with his life very young up until he passed away. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Can't wait. And A World Fit for Kids, a nonprofit organization that trains teenagers to become mentors to younger children. Celebrity edition of the game show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You won $32,000 on that, and you plowed it right back into your charity, A World Fit for Kids. Tell us about that real quick.
Wonderful charity. They approached me during my Hercules years, and I always wanted to do something with public schools because public schools suck, and we know it. They're only getting worse. My program, LA Unified is one of the worst school districts in the country with a 54% dropout rate on average every year that I've been doing this for over 20 years. The 12,000 kids we work with, we have a 98% graduation rate and a 67% higher GPA. What are we doing that our school systems can't do? In those 3 hours after school, what are we doing with these kids to give them hope, give them self-esteem, give them motivation? It's unbelievable. Take your kids out of school right now. And Bill Maher says, don't send your kids to university. That's quite a thing coming from a left guy like that. But he's an old school Democrat. He gets it. He sees how far left the country's getting right now. And he's smart enough to know it's not a good thing. So Go to worldfitforkids.org for more information. But even more importantly, you can go to sorbostudios.com. That's a good place to go.
Awesome. And we had John Schneider on here for Halloween, and he gave us a yeehaw shout out from his Bo Duke days. He still got it. Will you give us a disappointed?
Hey, hold on a second. John is going to be we're going to have a family and faith Comic-Con type of show up in Sevierville, just north of you, just south of Knoxville. Go to riseupcon.com. That's riseupcon.com. You can see some of your favorite actors that have been in movies that are family and faith based. So John Schneider will be there. Dean Cain will be there. Neil McDonough will be there. The Carrie and Chuck, the writers from God's Not Dead and Nefarious, and we got so many good things that please check out riseupcon.com. We have a charity golf event as well on May 29th, May 30th, and June 1st is the con. Please show up and support us and see some of your favorite actors there. Christy Swanson will be there as well.
Very cool. We'll put that in show notes and on our socials. And will you give us a disappointed?
Well, the only thing that I hate is cold weather. When I get in cold weather, I'm disappointed. There you go.
There. Awesome. Well, do you want to give anyone some socials so they can go look you up online and then you can go?
Sorbostudios.com is a great place to go. At KSorbs for Twitter. Facebook took me down 2 years ago for all my misinformation, which of course everything I said is now true, of course. They won't let me back on. They took 4 million followers away, but I'm closing on 2 million on Twitter. So go to KSorbs there. It's a good place to go. It's a good place to start. I post a lot there every single day. Instagram, the same thing. Just go check it out. You can follow me there. I put very funny, sarcastic truth. That's what I deal with.
All right. Thanks for giving us the extra time and good luck to you. God bless.
Right. Take care. Bye.
Now write songs about the heartland. My heartland's in Tennessee.
Wow, Steve, you got another winner. That was another.
What'd you think of him?
Wonderful. I'm like, when I launch my own show, which I'm working on right now, I'll have to bring him on because I visited Auckland. I've been to Auckland. I've been to Australia. You were in Australia, Auckland, or New Zealand.
Yep.
I know that they shot a lot of stuff in Milford Sound, which is, you go out there, that's a famous place to go and do the boat road ride out there and everything. But whenever I've seen like opening shots of that valley with the creek going through it, I'm like, Milford Sound. I know exactly that's at. And my wife went there too, several years after I did, before we got married. Yeah, what a great.
And these really cool water slides too that are natural. You go through caves through the rocks and you come out in the warm spring. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, I didn't do that.
Amazing place.
But
he's a good Christian man who decided to make a comeback, that's kind of been the theme of our entertainers that have been on the show, and they kept it going for 40 years, even though Hollywood didn't want him to go another 4 days. So fantastic, good story.
He's probably have more fun now than ever, because as good as he had it in the good days, then he exited when the bad days happened. And now, like he said, he's shot so many things that has nothing to do with Hollywood. They're all down there in Texas and Georgia and all that area. So and then he's doing a lot of independent. So these guys, they may not make quote the money per show.
Yeah, he's doing fine.
But he's doing fine.
Yeah, and he is making the money, and he is independent, and
he is.
He's a real hustler, and he's still going, and it's a good thing he recovered. And his wife is great. I wanted to get into his wife Sam, but she starred with him in this most recent movie too, so you can see her on the big screen. This is goodbye for a little while. I'm your host, Steve Abramowitz, editor-in-chief of HeartlandJournal.com. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, even while I'm gone, and pass it around, even in reruns. We only grow with your help, and still ad-free. Back in August. Enjoy the reruns. Maybe off air, we'll get that piece in our time. I'll work on it in Europe. Glory to God. At Heartland Journal, we don't just write about the Heartland, we're part of it. Whether you're in Montana cattle country, next to an Idaho data center in a drought, or from an Ohio manufacturing town, this is your platform. Got a story tip? A perspective we need to hear? We want it. This podcast and website exists because readers like you step up. Help us keep the lights on and the reporting honest. Visit heartlandjournal.com or our Substack, Heartland Journal, and subscribe to our ad-free premium content. Together, we're keeping authentic journalism alive in Middle America. I'm Steve Abramowitz, your host of the Heartland Journal podcast. Thanks for listening.
It's a long way to Nashville from that Napa Valley vine. Put me on a road less traveled. Lord, now I know why. God knew I'd get there in His perfect time.
Heartland Journal Podcast is the media property of heartlandjournal.com, where you can find news stories, commentary, and content serving the heartland of America. Any views or opinions represented on the podcast are personal and belong solely to the creator and do not represent those of the people, institutions, or organizations that the creator may or may not be associated with in professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated.
Now I write songs about the heartland. My heartland's in Tennessee. Now I write songs about the heartland. My heartland's in Tennessee.